Am I doing the ready, set, go? Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you some experiences I have with the fish that I'm going to show you. I want to start off by telling you these are experiences that I have with these fish. Yours may be different, and that's wonderful. And I also wanted to mention a lot of people don't want to share their information, or you feel that the information that you have isn't valuable. Any information is valuable. Write articles, share your experiences with your other members of the club. This is the best part of being a part of a club, is that you get to share things with one another. Not just your fish, but your experiences as well. You don't need to be a professional author to write an article. It can just be a few paragraphs or what you did or what happened to you. Share it with people when you need the content for your newsletters to keep the club active. Okay, that's my little blurb there. But I want to tell you, I love my Tetras, Rasboras. I love all fish, basically. But these are some of my favorites. And these are the ones that I have worked with. So I want to give them some love today. If you haven't tried any of them, please do. Even if your intentions are not to breed them, but just to keep them. A lot of these Tetras and Rasboras are really, really interesting. Let's see if I can do this right. So we'll focus on the compatibility of these fish. Will they all live together? Do you need a big group? Will they survive? None of them will survive individually. They need to be kept in a group. Ditherfish, they're perfect ditherfish for people that want to play with placcas, cories, any fish that lives on the bottom or any other fish anywhere, epistos, whatever. And I want to talk to you about conditioning the fish and breeding the fish, because the main focus for me has always been breeding, because I want to keep the species alive. A lot of them are disappearing, and it's up to us, I think, to keep them going. And we're going to talk about rearing the fry. This is Anostomus equus, the hockey stick pencilfish. These fry do not move. They spawn underneath of plant leaves, which I'll show you later, but the fry don't move. They look like pieces of debris floating in the water. So a lot of times I accidentally found the fry because I did a water change. All of mine are done manually. And I put the water into a bucket. And of course I'm siphoning up debris from the bottom of the tank. And lo and behold, I looked and something moved. And I thought, oh, geez, I got a critter in here I got to get rid of. No, it was fry. So it's a challenge to raise a lot of these fry, but it can be done with a little bit of patience and effort. So we're going to talk about dithering fish, the ones that keep everybody active and feeling comfortable in their tanks, and the companions that they can survive with. So here's a beautiful pleco. I mean, it's a very pretty fish. You're lucky that you saw that one outside of the cave, Eric, because, you know, all I ever see are hairy butts sticking out of there, like that guy there. So they're wonderful companions for these because they tend to not bother them. Most of the Tetras don't eat off of the bottom, so they just don't care about who's on the bottom, but the Pinaculus do. Nenobagris immaculatus is a lovely little brown catfish from Asia. It's not very commonly seen. I think I've only seen them in the States once, and of course I had to buy them. Even though they're just a brown fish, I happen to love them. The Hyalobagris flavus is another one from Asia. It's a lovely fish, very docile, not difficult at all to keep, maybe a little tricky to feed. They're both from Asia, so they would do brilliantly with Rasboras and barbs. And then we have the Corydoras weitzmanni. Everyone loves cories. I don't know anyone that doesn't. So they're perfect for keeping with cories because a lot of them are found in the same waterways. So they're all found together. And I want to talk about feeding now. So live food is always the best. If you can get live black worms, if you can grow your own brindle worms, white worms, mealworms for larger fish, the Daphnia, the glassworm, bloodworm, you can put a bucket of water outside and get mosquito larvae. It's cheap and it's free. Just don't get bit by them, but you know, you'll take that chance. And the second thing is frozen. I always thaw frozen food before I put it into the tank, obviously. And then the gel foods, and then the flake foods and the pellets. Basically, if it's a meaty food, not beef, meaty, because grasshoppers are meaty, you put it in the tank and the fish will eat it, and helps to condition them. So now we're going to talk about breeding. So if anybody has any questions or comments, or you want to stop and take a photo of the slide, please do so. Let me know. I'll be happy to help you. So the sexual differences on tetras is almost just like it is with the cories. The males are usually always a smaller fish, smaller body-wise. The females will be larger and bulkier in the girth. And you can tell this even in larger fish because the female's body will be deeper. This is Hyphosobrachon amanda. This is a fish that I recommend anyone who's just getting their feet wet. Try this fish because they are small. They don't take up a lot of space. You can basically breed them in a jug if you wanted to. The fry are very, very easy to raise, and they grow really quickly. So in 4 months, the fry will be just as big as the parents are. And these fish don't need any particular water parameters. A lot of these are farm raised. So anything that's been farm raised is going to be much easier to breed and keep than something that you will get out of the wild. But this is a lovely little fish in a planted tank. Can't beat it. It's gorgeous. And just like you look at a cory, you'll look down on the fish. Oh, God, I dread doing this. See? 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 She doesn't know what she's doing. But you can see the female's girth here. She's always going to be broader in the midsection, and the male is completely streamlined from the gill backwards. It's always going to be the same on all tetras, barbs and rasboras, cories, obviously. So now we want to decide, are we going to spawn this in a group, which we call flock spawning, which I find to be a lot easier. I will throw all the fish in the tank, males and females together, feed the heck out of everybody, give them a lot of water changes, get the females ready, and then I'll set them up for breeding. And sometimes I just cover the whole bottom of the tank with java moss or some other plant matter or artificial matter and let them go to town, and then I will remove the parents. The bad thing about this is eggs taste really good, and they're really high protein. So while someone's spawning, someone else is eating. So you're not going to raise a billion fry. You might raise 20, you might raise 100. It all depends on the species. So they spawn at any time, whenever they feel like it. Some will spawn in the morning, some will spawn in the afternoon, some spawn at night. Basically, somebody might spawn tomorrow morning, and then, maybe later on that evening, they'll spawn again. So it's all depending on whether or not those fish are ready and if they're comfortable. So a spawning setup, fit the fish to the tank. You're not going to take a Congo tetra and put it in a little cube and expect them to spawn. They're not going to be able to move around. The males aren't going to be able to display for the females. You need to make sure that the size of the tank corresponds with the size of the fish. The Amanda tetras that I just showed, you can go into a little cube to spawn because they're tiny. Harlequin Rasboras, small tank. Anything large must go into a larger tank. Some of these fish are very, very active whenever they're getting ready to spawn because the males just want to show off, just like birds do, just like men do. So you've got to have them in a sizable tank. If you don't know what kind of substrate to use, do it the easy way. Throw a bunch of plants in there. It doesn't have to be fancy plants. It doesn't have to be, this fantastically expensive plant. Just cover the bottom of the tank with something to stop the predation of eggs. You can use marbles, you can use rocks, you can use a live plant, you can use artificial plants, you can use yarn mops, basically anything. Also, if you have, a lot of people use catappa leaves, I guess they're called, those Indian almond leaves. That is a wonderful addition to tetras, barbs, rasboras, I think all fish, because it puts tannins in the water, and it also offers a little spot for a female to get away from an overly amorous male. And sometimes it's the other way around with some of these species. So it provides shelter for the females, and it's also first food for fry because they feed off of that biofilm. So I do it the cheap and easy way. I load up my tanks with plants, both at the top and at the bottom of the water, or even, something like a crypt in the middle of the tank. And I have a sponge filter. I have no substrate because I want to see the fry and I want to see the eggs as well. So I have no substrate in any of the tanks that I'm playing with these types of fish. They don't need that substrate, and it's easier to spot the fry and keep the tank clean. I have always got leaves in all of my tanks because that's, again, food and shelter. It's just a simple, easy way to set a tank up. And you can use moss. A friend of ours who recently passed away in the States was a brilliant brilliant tetra breeder. He's the top breeder in the United States. And he would go out into his woods and he would just pick moss off of trees or off of rocks, submerge it in a tank. It puts nothing bad in the tank. They are not soil born. They are growing on top of rocks and wood. So you're not picking anything up that's deadly or going to be detrimental to spawning your fish. It's a perfect, free, cheap, easy way to capture the eggs. Most of the eggs are clear. They blend in with the moss. Some of the eggs will be predated. Some will survive. So it's an easy way to get your eggs. I also make breeding traps. This is for when I want to remove the eggs from the tank. This is a worm keeper. It's got perforated material at the bottom of it. I put some rocks in there to weigh the plants down. I stuff it with plants, all different kinds, just whatever junk I have floating around, and I'll weight it down with rocks or marbles. This way the parents know this is the only place I have to spawn. This is where I'm going to spawn. Now some of the eggs will, get tossed out because the parents are in a flurry, but this is an easy way if you have limited tank space, because I know people back home spawn a fish and they'll raise the fry in an ordinary bucket with an air stone in it until the fry are large enough to move into a tank. It's simple, it's free, and it's easy. And now after we spawn the fish, all eggs for tetras and rasboras and barbs are light sensitive. Like Eric mentioned yesterday, we treat eggs as all being light sensitive. So you just take a towel, any dark colored towel, so long as it blocks the light. You can use a piece of cardboard, recycle your paper, put it on top of the tank, but you want to leave, you want to leave a little opening. A lot of the Germans, they'll put a hole in a piece of cardboard. I just leave the corner open with a towel. I have towels in my fish room because obviously I got to dry my hands, and I like the front of my tanks to be nice and clean so I can see. Leave that opening because that's where all of the infusoria will be drawn to. All of that plant matter, the leaves, even the rocks will have biofilm on it, and that biofilm has little critters in it that these fish need to eat. So when you do that, all those infusoria are drawn into that area, and that's where the fish will go to eat. So it's just another cheap and easy way. But you can see from the photograph on the right, it's just covered with plant matter at the top. A lot of the tetra babies, when they hatch out, they'll cling to the sides of the glass. They look like slivers of glass themselves, but they'll cling to the sides of the glass until they're free swimming. They have a tiny egg sac, so they'll cling to the sides of the glass. They eventually make themselves up to the top of the tank, a lot of species, and that's where they'll live. That's where they'll hover all the time. So you want to have that plant matter up there, and this way they're closer to the infusoria as well. So now we want to take care of these guys. Like I said, they're really small. Some of them are really challenging to get them to feed because their mouths are so small. But a lot of these tetras, when they're born, they don't even have a mouth developed yet. So that's why you wait until they're completely free swimming until you begin to offer them food. They don't need food the first day or the second day. Most of the eggs hatch within 24 to 48 hours. They don't need food right away. You can just be lazy and forget about the tank. Just make sure that those fry are alive in the tank. So we grow our own green water in a window. Just water with, green water put in it, or just let it get algae in it by itself. You can grow your own infusoria. There are so many recipes for how to grow paramecium infusoria and euglena on the internet. You can find out how to do it. If one doesn't work, please don't give up. Try another one. I have tried so many different ways of growing infusoria. You can do it really easy. We watched a video from Nick Mann. Just throw some aquarium water, sponge squeezings, and some yeast. Shake the yeast up, dissolve it, throw it in there, cover it up, and let it alone. The infusoria will be there shortly. So on the first day, after they're free swimming, you just give them a light feeding. There can be 100 fry in there, but you don't have to pound them with food. The pounding with food comes later, not right away. You don't want to foul the water. So after the 4th or 5th day of most of the species being alive, they'll take live baby brine, shrimp, or larger foods. So you judge the food by the size of the fry. If you're not going to take a big wedge of steak and shove it in your mouth because you can't fit it, you have to think about the fry. The size of their mouth should correspond to the size of the food that you're offering them. And only after their egg sac is completely dissolved and they're free swimming. So now we have to do water changes. Anything that you don't do a water change on is going to be stunted. They're going to be prone to weakened systems. You have to do water changes. Start off slowly using water from the parent's tank. Now I have to tell you, when the parents spawn, if I leave those fish in there and I remove the fry, I obviously am going to do a water change on the parent's tank. But I'm going to continue to do water changes on the parent's tank with the same water parameters that I've put in. A lot of the fish I use straight RO, some I use a combination half RO, half tap, and some of them I can use straight tap water. Again, it all depends on the origin of the fish. Wild-caught fish, you have to be more particular. Farm-raised fish, not so much. So I will take the water from the parent's tank and use it on the first maybe week or two of the water changes for the fry. And I only take out a little bit. These are small beings. They're not excluding, they don't have a lot of waste yet. The only waste is the food that you're putting in there and it's not getting eaten. So in my tanks, I always throw ram's horn snails in as janitors, and their waste also creates infusoria in the water. After that 2-week period, I slowly acclimate them to my tap water. So I'll do the water change. I'll use some from the parent's tank, and I'll add a little bit of water from my tap. We filter our whole house water, so there's no chloramines or anything in the water when I use it. If you have that, you must treat the water to remove any dangerous chemicals. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just take a small bucket, put water from the parent's tank, add a cup or two of the water from the tap, and then slowly dump it in. But it must be the same temperature. You can't dump cold water into a fry tank because then they usually all wipe out. There might be a few hardies that are in there that will survive, but the rest of them will die. So here you go. If you have Cory eggs, if you have Pleco eggs, if you have Barbara Rasbora eggs or fry, you can throw them all in together. So long as those water parameters are reasonably the same, you can save space by growing up multiple species. I find that if I mix Tetras species, somebody's going to get more food than the other because they're more aggressive food-wise. But as far as the Corys or Plecos getting food, it drifts down to the bottom and they get their food because you don't need to feed a heck of a lot of food with fry. So this is Corydoras pantalensis fry. You'll notice they're all frenzying on the leaves because there's biofilm on that leaf and that's what they're eating. So you can save yourself some time and space. And there's the Plecos. I just recently spawned these Chitostoma formosae. I really don't like Plecos, but I like these guys. And the fry for the Chitostoma or a twig fish, they're not really competing for the same foods. You might have to feed additional food to that tank, but it's no problem because you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of space. So now I want to talk to you about some of the fish that I have experience with. And again, as I've said, if you have a different experience with it, please feel free to share. If you don't want to share it out loud, put a couple lines down on paper and send it to your editor so that you can add it to your publication. Everybody needs to share this information with everyone else. So we'll start off with the Rasboras. These are most all small fish. These guys are pretty frequently found. Anybody can pick these up relatively inexpensively. I just wanted to highlight this. So some of the species have undergone name changes. And what we used to know as a Rasbora, this, that, or the other, is now Trigonostigma or whatever. But there are 88 species that have been named. There are still some species that come in occasionally that have no scientific description yet, so they don't have an actual name. They might have a common name, which I really don't like, but we'll get to that. And several of the species that we can get are actively on the IUCN. Does everyone know what the IUCN is? The IUCN is an international organization that monitors the numbers of animals inexistent in their native habitats. So they monitor jaguars, tigers, elephants, all the way down to crayfish and snails. They monitor everything. So now they can't possibly get into every waterway on the planet to see who's there and who's not, but they do actively try to count the number of fish that they catch in waterways. And a lot of these species are disappearing because of mankind's greed. So some of them are listed as endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, which means that they're on the verge of becoming extinct, and a lot of them are near threatened, so they're on the borderline as well. And some of them have actually gone extinct in the wild. So this one, readily available. Who doesn't like that little fish? I mean, you can clearly see the female's the rounder belly. She's a heavier body. The male's a little bit smaller. I am not going to read you. I don't want to put you to sleep. This is not bedtime story. But these are the temperatures that they will tolerate and the pH values that they will tolerate and where they are commonly found. Some of these fish are actually found in different waterways, but they're not sure whether they actually evolved there or whether they were released there or dumped there. So, but this is a very nice fish. It's non-problematic to keep. They've been farmed. If you can find them wild caught, you're going to have to put a little bit of extra effort in. This fish I spawned half tap, half RO. I put an Anubias plant in there with wide leaves, and they spawned up underneath of the leaves, like this. The male will wrap himself around the female. They will both turn upside down and deposit the leaves underneath of there. So she releases the egg, he fertilizes it, they break apart, and then they'll do the whole thing. They'll just repeat the process. Unlike Corydoras, they will not return to that same leaf to put the egg in the same position. They might go to a different leaf, or they might pick a different area on the same leaf. But they must have leaves that are up in the water for them to spawn. They will not spawn down in a substrate, and they will not spawn anything that's floating. It has to be a freestanding leaf for them to spawn. The eggs are fairly large, maybe a millimeter, so you can actually see them when you pick the plant out. I just take the plant out and put it into different water and leave the parents in the tank, but I use the water from the parents' tank. Very, very straightforward to raise. There's no problem, and they grow super, super fast. And this is their habitat. I stole this off of the internet. Look at the water. It doesn't look like anything you'd want to walk up and take a pot of tea out of, but that's what they're found in. It's muddy, it's murky, but the water's clear, and there's vegetation overhanging. And that's where they would spawn, in the overhanging vegetation on the sides of the tank, on the sides of the biotope. So it doesn't look like anything you'd want to, run out and play in. I would, but I'm a weirdo. And then there's the fry, newly hatched. I am not a good photographer, and this was from an old camera, so it's really a crappy picture, but you can see the fry is kind of like a yellowy color, and they're very small. There's tiny mouths. Feed them with infusoria, powdered food. A lot of people make boiled eggs, and they'll take the yolk and run it through a mesh net. I can't do that because I just want to eat the egg myself. But they're really very, very simple to raise and very simple to spawn. It's a really good, it's better than watching any TV program, in my opinion. And then we have the little SBI, the little pork chop. Now, a lot of people confuse these guys. SBIs will always have that color, that coppery color all over their body. And they spawn in the same manner. And these are the temperatures and pH values that they will tolerate. So this is another fish that is farm raised. Not very problematic to rear the fry, and they're relatively easy. If you feed them a lot of good food, a lot easier to get them to spawn. So this is Seriously Fish. Are any of you familiar with that website? Yeah, I love that website because there's a lot of good information and a lot of good photographs also. But they found one location where the water's actually harder, that these fish are actually thriving in and they're reproducing in. So don't be afraid. If it doesn't work for you, try something different. Just modify the water harder or softer, whatever. Just get them to spawn. Sometimes it's a little bit of extra effort on us. We really can't be lazy all the time. But this is interesting to note that this fish is primarily found in blackwater habitat, and in this one location, they're thriving and thriving here. So Don't be afraid to try. And the hanguli. The hanguli will only have the color around the pork chop, the top part of the pork chop. So this is another fish. It's a female. Very easy to spawn. They do the same thing up underneath the plant leaves, the same small fry, but they're really, really, really simple to work with and simple to rear the fry. So if you want to dip your toes into this, if you haven't done this before, these are good species to try because they're readily available usually, and they're fairly straightforward to induce them to spawn and to raise the fry. This is one of my favorite fish on the planet, and I ditched my fish because they wouldn't do anything for me. Sometimes you just want to kick yourself in the butt. This is a larger Rasbora. I don't know if this has ever been available to you guys because they need cold water. So they would probably survive in your waterways. They may never become available, I don't know. But it's beautiful. The fins are a true cherry red. The stripe that looks like it's a greenish color is a beautiful light turquoise, and they look like they're shimmering. They're just gorgeous fish, but they're extremely active. They don't sit still unless they're sleeping. This fish has never been bred in captivity, and as you can see, they're on the near threatened list. So they're monitoring this fish. They're usually not available all that often, so we may never see them again. But I kept this fish, and what was really neat about them is how they would spar in the tank. Now these were in a very long tank and very deep with a lot of plant matter and wood. And there were other species in with them. But you can see the males sparring with one another over the territory. And what's really interesting about this species is there would be one female that would take over the tank. After these guys got done with their tomfoolery, she would push everybody to one side of the tank, and that whole area was hers. And if anybody even ventured near it, she would rush back and put a smackdown on them and make them go back to the other side of the tank. So the female controlled the tank. So I thought, this is interesting. I've never seen this behavior before in any Rasbora. So I removed that female into another tank. The next thing you know, up comes another female, and she did the exact same thing. So they have very interesting behaviors, and I don't know whether any of the other ones do that because I don't put Rasboras into large tanks. But I have to wonder now, if I did, would that happen, or would some similar behavior happen? Half the interest, I think, in keeping fish is watching their behavior and their interactions with one another. But this fish was just exceptional with while they would just go on for hours, and they don't care about anybody else in the tank. All they cared about was, I gotta beat this guy's butt. But it's really cool. Let me see if this will work, thank God. So Rasbora veteriflorus is an endangered fish. I spawned this fish some years ago. I have never seen it available again. I don't know whether it will ever be available again. This is a jewel. It's a very small fish. They maintain their color constantly. They just look like golden embers in a tank. So if you have a nano tank, these are perfect. Even if you don't intend to spawn them, just to watch them. They are elegant, beautiful, shiny. The color's just so rich. These guys also spawn up underneath of plant leaves. No problem whatsoever keeping them in straight tap. They can tolerate temperature up to 78 Fahrenheit, sorry, I don't know Celsius, but they're non-problematic. But we're wiping them out. Well, we aren't, but someone somewhere is wiping them out. So they may not be available ever again. They could be totally gone. That's a lovely species. Some hongzai. I don't think there is a common name for these. If there is, I don't know it. But this is another. It's a jewel of a fish for a small tank. You can spawn these in a margarine tub. They're small, they're feisty, but they're peaceful. Beautiful fish, straightforward to spawn, straightforward to rear the fry. And it's another fish that we don't see coming in all the time. Although they are beginning to farm them now in Asia. It's a beautiful, beautiful little fish. If you can get your hands on some of these, even if your intentions are to never spawn them, just to keep them and observe them, they're really a delight to watch. They're just a beautiful little fish. This is a fish here that's always been special for me, lacrimula. This is a stunning fish. This photograph really does nothing for this fish. Each one of the scales is outlined in black. The color, when the males are actively courting females, they actually look like a gas flame blue. It's just a stunning, deep, rich, electrifying blue color. And then they get an overwash of cherry red on them. And all their fins are just look like somebody flipped a bic and just lit them all up. They're just gorgeous fish. They're very, very active. So you can't keep this fish comfortably in a smaller tank. They would have to go into a little bit of a larger tank. Planted tanks, they shine. They're absolutely stunning. This fish only spawns in the spring. So if you're going to get them, or if you can get them, I don't even know if you can anymore, this is only a springtime spawner. But the fry grow up so quick, and there they are. They look like little slivers of cantaloupe in the water. And when they're first born, all they do is lay there because they haven't absorbed their egg sac yet. But once they're up and free swimming, they'll take any food, and they grow very quickly. Proper water changes, proper food, they grow super fast. Within 3 months, they begin to color up, and then pretty soon they're full grown, and they look just like their parents. Stunning little fish. And you can see how small they are from the little sprig of java moss there. This is another fish that I find absolutely fascinating. That blue eye and that silvery gray body. I've seen these fish, and I'm not sure if these are different species. Some of them are small, and then there are some that are really long. So I don't know really, are they the same? Because I've kept them for numbers of years, the smaller species, and they never really got big. But then I've been to dealers' tanks where the fish are really long and they're larger. So I don't know. I'm not an ichthyologist. But this fish is absolutely gorgeous. You have to keep the tank dark for these guys for them to show their best colors. That blue eye, it looks like diamond floating around in the water. And they shoal perfect fish. If you want a little group of them, they're absolutely stunning. These guys spawn either underneath of plants or in a moss. They're not super particular about where they go, they just go. And the fry pop out another one. They're a little bit slower growing. For a small fish, I find that small fish usually grow quicker than large fish do, the fry. These guys took a little bit longer to grow, but once they got going, they got to a certain point, they would just explode in growth, no matter how much you fed them or how much water changes I gave them. But they're an absolutely beautiful little fish. And I think we saw these at Aquarium AI. Yeah, thank you. My memory's not good. And here he is. There's another picture. This is what you normally would see in a tank, in a dealer. They look silver and drab. But you get them home and you put them into a right environment, these fish shine. They're gorgeous. They'll get that black on their body, and the dorsals will just pop, and that blue is magnificent. So I'm going to end it here with the Rasboras. And I just want you to know that a lot of them are disappearing, which I already told you. So try to breed some and distribute them. We want to make sure that these little guys don't disappear from the planet. They're readily available, usually, a lot of these species. If you see some weirdo, oddball species, if you want to pick it up and play with it, please do so. You don't ever fail. Because how we learn is when we fail. So if you have a fish, I've wiped out on the hominy tanks by stupidity, by laziness, or by accident. Everybody has done that. And if anybody tells you that they have never, they're full of it. I'm sorry for putting it that way, but they really are lying. So pick up some Rasboras, give them a try, even with the weird oddball species or some of the common species. Just pick them up and give them a try. You won't be disappointed. So now we're going to move on to the African Tetras. And just because the Europeans do it, I wanted to do it too. I can take a picture of a map also. But you see all the different countries. The reason that a lot of the African Tetras are really expensive is because nobody wants to go there. Those people are either killing one another, or there's disease and pestilence. The grasshoppers will eat you. It's a humongous country, and there's a lot of turmoil no matter where you go. So nobody wants to go into the jungle, collect these little fish, and bring them home so that you can sell them for $3. and the cost of shipping them, exporting them from this country into any other country, I don't care where it's at, is prohibitive. So that cost, unfortunately, gets passed on to us. But if you're going to play with any fish, I highly recommend the Africans because not a lot of people want to play with them because of the cost, but they're worth it. So there are 146 genera and 1,181 species named. A lot of the stuff that we have that are coming in is like, cherry Congo and all those. They haven't been described yet. And there are so many different varieties of a color, nobody knows if they're actually the same species because no one's working with them to identify them. Because again, we're in Africa, nobody really wants to go there. So they're found through South America, which is the blind cave fish, and some of them can have sight as well. Africa and South America. They're not found anywhere else. So we're going to start off with the elastids. And the elastids are your Congo tetras, Congo types. These tend to be larger fish. The only one that's really readily available is the Congo tetra that I know of. This is a wonderful species. They do tend to get a little large. You do need a larger tank, and you do need soft, acidic water to breed them well. The thing that is interesting about this fish, and a lot of people make this mistake, if you can induce these fish to spawn, their eggs are white. So people think, oh, the eggs are all bad, it didn't work. They siphon all those eggs out, and out to the trash they go. Those eggs aren't bad. Those eggs will turn clear within 24 hours and develop. Every single one of them. The only ones that will not is that actually look like white marbles. Their eggs, when they're first laid, they look like an opaque white, but if they're a solid white, like a rock or a punched out piece of paper, those ones are bad. 99% of the time, these guys throw all good eggs. So if you want to siphon the eggs out and put them into a different tank, trust me, 24 hours, the eggs will turn clear, the fry will develop, and you will have nice sized fry to work with. They can take baby brine shrimp within 3 days. They're already a large fish. And they might be a little bit slower growing, but it's well worth it. And you can always tell the males from the females, even at a younger age, because of that finnage. The females get robbed. We have to apply makeup, well, they can't. And it's just a stunning fish. So if you want to work with one, I would suggest you start off with these guys because they're relatively straightforward. And this is pretty much almost always a farmed fish. This is one of the ones I picked up as a cherry red Congo. This is an absolutely stunning animal. The colors are just mind-blowing. They actually look like they're glowing. The yellows, the reds, the oranges, the blue. It's just a magnificent fish. And as you can see in the background, there's the poor little female. She's just silver. So he has this elaborate finnage. And when he puts it all up to display for the female, oh, it's a magnificent sight. It's just absolutely beautiful. This fish I had to spawn in straight RO. I do not remineralize my RO water. There's no surefire way to assure that these fish are not going to take, the pH is not going to take a dive. The thing that I watch for with all the fish that I work with, if they begin to develop pustules on their body, it's time for a water change. A much safer way to do this is to put a plant in there. I use Anubias coffeeifolia because it's a fairly rugged plant. In our area, it's readily available. We have tons of it. Throw a piece of Anubias in there. Once those leaves even begin to look like they're going to melt, where they will get pale edges, it's time for a water change. With these guys, I just stopped doing water changes on them and I fed the heck out of them. And then the female began to get sicker, and that's when I began to do water changes using straight RO. So don't be intimidated. If you're able to keep an eye on either the plant or if you're able to test your water daily, don't be afraid. That water is not likely to take a pH dive after 3 days. It might happen after 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. Don't be afraid to test your water. Test kits are really inexpensive. Buy one. And this is the poor female, and there's the fry. And you can see that's a fairly large fry. It does not have a mouth opening yet. There is no stoma. So once he is free swimming, microworm, graduate them into baby blind shrimp, they grow pretty quick. And it's just a stunning little fish. And I really hope that someday they're available here. I don't know whether are they? No? Hopefully someday they will be, or maybe I can smuggle some in. So this is what works for me for all of the elastids. This pretty much is for all African tetras that I've worked with. Africa has a seasonal rainfall all over the continent. It's not raining in May. It's not going to rain for 10 days straight. It might not rain until July or August. But they have a seasonal rainfall, which means that water dissipates. It gets nasty. There's little food available because all the food needs water too, the insects. So I starve them. I don't do water changes, and then I pound them with food, pound them with water changes. 2 months later, those females are all going to be gravid. Sometimes for the smaller fish, that happens a lot quicker. 25% of the water is nothing. You can use the water that you take out of the tank for your gardens or for your potted plants, or just throw it out on the lawn, throw it out on the street. By the third day, they were spawning in the Java moss, and this is for all of them across the board. You don't necessarily need this treatment for the Congo tetras because they're primarily farmed fish, but if you do have the opportunity to get them and they are wild caught, you would probably need to do something like this. Mine were wild caught, so I had to, play Mother Nature. So they don't need fresh water. In Africa, they're not exposed to fresh water all the time, only in the rainy season. So don't overthink this when you're doing it. If you want to be lazy, if you got to go on vacation and have somebody else feed your fish, that's fine. They're not going to die. Just take your time, be patient, give them a little bit of what I call torture, and they'll spawn for you. This is another one. I love this fish. It's just a silver fish with blue across the male's back, and that blue is only there when they're in breeding mode or if the light catches it right. But the finnage on the males is absolutely, they just drape, that dorsal fin just drapes over them, and they get these filaments on them. They're just gorgeous fish. You can see they'll tolerate pretty warm temperatures. A lot of these will not. Do you know what Phenocogrammus orienticus, the blue-eyed Congo is? Thank you. The blue-eyed Congo is? Anyone? No? Yeah, I have those at home. Those are a bugger too. This fish, the blue-eyed Congo, has yellow and blue on it. It's a very pretty fish. And I thought, well, they're from Africa. They can take the heat. I let their tank get up to 82 degrees, the water, which, that's what, 32, 34, 28? Hey, thanks. You're quick. So anyway, I let that water get warm. 4 hours later, they were all belly up and dead. These fish cost, what is it, $25 a piece in the U.S.? 30. Yeah, well, I don't care about money. So, yeah, because you pay for it. But they were very expensive, and I had 10 of them in the tank. So, that's not this little chump change. And I thought he would kill me, but he wasn't pleased, but I didn't get killed, obviously. But you don't need to necessarily keep fish in high temperatures. So don't think that you have to put a heater in every tank. We don't heat every tank. We don't heat the tanks. We heat the space with individual heaters. Saves money on electricity. So these guys can take a little bit of warm water. I never did that to them because they were always in the middle tank, so their tanks never got that warm. But they're just a spectacular fish. And if I can get this to play. These are my fry. And you can see the males and the females clearly. These are 4-month-old fish. But you can tell the males from the females because the males already have that droopy finnage going on in them. They're really straightforward fish. All of these elastids don't need this big pampering like you would think that they would. But they're just a stunning fish, and they always stay in a group. So they might not be the most striking fish because they're silver. I happen to like silver fish because I can appreciate that color. But they're very nice fish and easy to spawn, easy to raise. This is another one. This is a very special fish because they're caught in different areas, as you can see. Hey, but as you can see on the next slide, this is a lovely fish. Another one where the male's fins are just like, you know, Rapunzel's tresses, where they just drape over his back. And they always have a pink, thank you. My mind just went, what is that? But yeah, they always have a pink adipose fin. Thank you very much. And the male's colors is all dependent on which location they're caught. So they're different color from different areas. So the males have the pink, the female doesn't on the adipose. And I love the steel aquarium Blazers photographs because Frank Schaefer is just such a tremendous photographer. I can't get my fish to sit still like his. I don't know what dope he's putting in his water. But they spawn in plants, big eggs, you can see. There's the egg just harvested. Just harvested. There it is after a few days. And there they are when they've just popped out of the egg sac. That big speckled pink egg sac. I think that's so neat. But their eggs look like an egg. If you crack it open, there's a yolk and then there's the surrounding albumin. But that's what they look like. And they're very large. So you don't have to worry about, oh, dainty little eggs. You don't have to worry about that. These fish are really, really, really super easy to get them to spawn and to rear the fry. There's no magic needed for these fish. Do you? I really do think that you should try them. Do I have? No. Did he? I didn't see them. Okay. Yeah. Right. See? So they are a little bit costlier, but remember, these are coming from Africa. These aren't coming from, you know, across the street. These are really, really cool fish. The only drawback to these guys is, again, like the Corys Eric mentioned yesterday, they have to be sexually mature. You're not going to buy the fish, you know, this big and say, oh, I'm going to get fry in a couple of weeks. No, you're not. You have to wait. And you have to let them grow and develop. This is a really nice fish. And there was a really good article in Amazonas Magazine. Does anyone get Amazonas Magazine? Here? You? Well worth every penny. I don't know why anyone would not get it. They had a very interesting article in there. And if you do go into a store, and if they can tell you where the fish were caught, every fish from each area, they have different colors on them. So this guy here has that nice golden hue. The other one might have the golden hue with pink overlaid. Or they might have, believe it or not, purple. And I've seen them. Gorgeous. It has a purple hue across the back. And it's there all the time because the males like to show off. So there's different color morphs of this fish that they're not sure if they're different complexes or if they're totally different species. So if you can get them, I encourage you to get them. They do need a little bit more time. They do need a little bit more work to get them to spawn, but they're fantastic fish, and they don't bother anybody. Here we have a little Neolebia sansorgii. Has anyone seen these? This is a very small fish. Again, different collection points. They have different colors. They can be green, obviously only the males. They can have a greenish color. They can have a copper color. They can have a pinkish color. But this is a very small fish, perfect for a nano tank. They stay always on the bottom. They will never come to the surface for anything unless that water is so putrid that they're ready to die. But this is a beautiful small fish. They all lay their eggs beneath a sheltered area. So you could probably get them to spawn in a cave. But the male would always put his eggs underneath of that small piece of driftwood as long as the moss was close to it. And the fry all stay on the bottom like little thieves in the night, and they scurry around, and they're extremely tiny. Look how that egg isn't even a millimeter. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Have we ever seen these available? This fish is just remarkably beautiful. If you get it in a dealer's tank, which I hope to God someday you do, are you allowed to buy fish overseas and import them yourselves? No? See, I wasted time here now. But I'll show you this fish anyway, because it's remarkable. It's in a dealer's tank, or if you ever do get the chance to get some, if I ever come here again, I swear to God, I'm going to smuggle some in. I'll stuff them in my... I don't care. It's just a remarkable fish. They're always silver in the tank, in the dealer's tank. When you take them home and you put them into a planted tank, all that red looks like someone took a paintbrush and just smacked them with it. And they'll have those red dots. And some of them are like a liver color, and other ones are like a screaming red, like those bettas over there. Beautiful fish. They're shy and timid. They don't bother anyone. They shoal loosely. The males can be a little bit nasty towards one another, but they're not to the point where you want to take them out and give them to your neighbor that you don't like. They're just a lovely fish. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fish. I don't know anyone that's ever spawned them. I don't know anyone on the planet that's ever spawned them. Just gorgeous fish. This is another one. Latigusia lillofi. Have you seen jelly beans? Jelly beans? No? Well, I'm not going to waste too much time. This is a really neat fish. They've only been spawned a few times in captivity. I've kept them. I've never spawned them. The males have a hooked anal fin, and they are unsure whether that hook is used when they're spawning or if that's a transference of the sperm packets to the female. Nobody's ever studied them that much because they're really not available that much. And if you look at them, they're not like the flashiest fish, and people don't, I go for them. But it's a nice fish, and it's on the endangered list. And there's a nice male. Pretty little fish. So enough of that. We'll go to South America now. And believe it or not, there are tetras found down in Ecuador and Argentina and Uruguay, Paraguay, where the water temperatures are a little bit chilly. So there's some species that are going to not want you to put a heater in their tank. If you can get your hands on them, I'm sorry I don't. I wish I would have done research on that. So we'll start off with these guys. Everybody knows these guys. The neon tetras, you can see the female at the top, always the deeper girth. She's just as colorful as he is. And there he is, little diminutive male. His only responsibility is to deliver his sperm. So they like cooler water. People take these home sometimes from shops and they'll put them into a tank that has a heater in it. They don't want a heater. They wash out. And a couple of weeks later, they're all dead. Because, yes, sir?
With these particular ones, we're told because of the tetra disease.
Yeah.
It's like a cotton.
Yep.
It comes up. And we're actually told by most pet shops that I'm aware of that if you keep them below 26, that's when the disease actually comes out. And I can actually prove that because ones that I've taken home, if I had them at 24, I actually got the cotton, the fungus sort of growth on.
Mm-hmm.
If I took them up to 25, it actually disappeared.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never had that happen to me. That's interesting. They're farm-raised fish, I would imagine? Interesting. I always keep mine cold. I have a small room that is totally underground, and it has a door on it, and there are only tanks on one side. So my water temperature, yeah, I'm doing Fahrenheit. I'm such an idiot. So my water can go down to 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which is quite cold. I don't like sticking my hands in that water because they start to hurt. But I kept these at 70, which is what, 20? 21?
Yeah, almost 14 degrees.
14. Oh, wow, was I off? I'm sorry, when I went to school, we didn't, nobody said anything about metric. So, yes, mine were wild caught. Yeah. There's no chance of them ever coming in here wild caught? Next time I come over here, I'm bringing a God-forbidden suitcase full of fish. And I'm going to lie and tell them I'm a doctor, and now this is for research.
Stop recording for a second.
Yeah, edit that out.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know her. But, yeah, mine were wild caught, so maybe that's why. And I think, going to what we were talking about outside, when you have these farmed fish, they're in these gigantic vats. I don't know what kind of water conditions they're in, and they're probably getting crap food, and they just want to make a dollar. They don't care about the health of these fish. They want to get them the heck out of there as quick as they can so they can fill their pockets up. If you get a wild-caught fish, I'm going to make sure you do. If you get a wild-caught fish, they're already immune to everything that nature's throwing at them. these are the healthiest fish that you can get. They may come in and they might have dings on them or fins missing or maybe an eye. One-eyed fish can still breed. This fish in cold water shines compared to what might be in a warmer tank. Their colors are just electric. And the great part is you don't need a heater. They don't care. Yes, sir.
I also find that you can cool the water, they don't fight so much.
Yes.
And then when you bring them up to the breeding temperature,
They're more.
that's when they
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. What he's.
cool the water, they don't fight as much.
Right.
They don't get so much damage.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's a wonderful point because they're active. They spar just like any other fish does. But when they're cold, they're really not interested in fighting. They want to, I don't know, I guess stay warm. But this is a really nice fish. And if you can get them to breed. This, for this species, my experience is, I had to keep the top of the tank dark. Once they settle down, you can put tannins into the water. I buy Sarah tannin enhancer, whatever the heck it's called, and I squeeze it in there to make the water a little bit brown, or if I use the Indian almond leaves. They like it a little bit dark. But when I put the towel over the tank, and it was very, very dim because I covered up the 2 tanks that it was on each side. I covered that as well so the light wouldn't get in. That's when they spawned. It was almost hard to see the fish. But that's when they spawned. And I just lined the whole bottom of the tank with Java moss, and I flock spawned them again. I had 10 fish because I'm greedy. I want 10. 10 fish, and I fed the heck out of them with live foods. I didn't give them flake or anything else. It was strictly live food, Daphne, mosquito larvae, and at the time we were able to harvest glassworms. But that's what I solely fed them, and I did water changes with straight RO. After a week of that towel being over, there were little fry clinging to the sides of the glass at night when I would go down and spy on them, and there were thousands of them. Now, I didn't need thousands of them because, where am I going to get rid of them at? Some of them, not all of them made it, but I had a couple hundred fry survive. And then once I saw that, the following morning when the lights came on, I rolled the towel back and removed the parents. Now, if you do that, sometimes you're going to damage fry. There's thousands of them in it. I don't really care if I want to sound cool, but I don't care whether I damage a few. And I really don't think that happens because fry are very alert. They know what's going on and they know to run and hide. So remove the parents, cover that tank back up. I covered all 3 up, left them alone. After the 3rd day, I started putting powdered food and green water and sponge squeezing into there. Those fry grew like weeds. Within a couple of months, they were full grown. So I'm now unloading these fry off on other people. It's a beautiful little fish. And I have to wonder if you didn't spawn yours and raise them up in a cooler temperature, if they would be immune. Right. I really do wonder that now. That's interesting.
Do you have to separate the sexes prior to breeding?
I don't. No, I don't have the tank space, and I hate to admit it, but I'm lazy.
That does work well, though. With any of the egg scouters,
Yeah.
if you separate males and females,
Yeah.
like the male the females are having, and when you put them together, typical males, they're like, whoa, women!
Yeah. And it does work a lot better. It does work a lot better because the males, even when I don't care what species it is, the males are always going to harass the females. Yes, sir.
Another thing, too, especially with neons and cardinals, we talked to a lot of people who try to breed them. They buy them when they're smaller in the shop.
Right.
Like the standard size, regular size, and then they hold on to them for a year so they get nice and big and fat, They're not good breeders. You want to breed a younger
fish.
Most of the Tetras and even barbs and danios, Rasboras, once the fish are sexually mature and they're still young, you get the best spawn. You get the big old fish.
Yeah.
The males aren't producing good milk, good sperm.
Yeah.
The females, they can't even drop their eggs
Right.
off or whatever. So breed a sexable younger fish than an older fish.
Right, exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. A lot of the times if you'll go into a shop and the females are big and they've been that way for a while, they're egg bound. So you can probably just pass them by. Always go for the younger, smaller fish. You can tell the females from the males even when they're young because they still have that deep body. So don't buy that big egg-bound female. You're wasting your money. You're never going to get a fry. You may as well take it home and feed it to a cichlid or whatever. It's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. Good point, Eric. Thank you. This is one of my favorite fish on the planet. Do you guys ever get these?
Yes.
Do you have the opportunity? Has anyone ever spawned them?
Yes.
Yeah! This fish is so cool. Even if you don't breed it, if you don't harvest the eggs, you don't raise the fry, who cares? You got to get these fish. Make sure you get males and females, and that's obvious. The males always have the big flamboyant finnage, and the females are small and, oh, I don't get any fins. This fish is fantastic. You can breed this fish in like a milk jug. They're small. They're slender. You just have to have something for the fish to deposit their eggs on. And these fish spawn out of the water. It's one of the fascinatingest things you'll ever see in your life. If you have the top of the tank with some floating plants, because they're primarily surface dwellers, and you put a piece of glass, plastic, whatever across the top of that tank, and those females are ready to go, and those males are always ready to go, you watch them, and I don't have video. It's time for me to put on my acting clothes. So I'm the male, and here, you come be the female. Come on. Come on. Let's be the female.
Should I stop the recording?
So I'm the male, and I have this, wonderful finnage. I don't have anything to use a fin. Whatever. And I have this elaborate dorsal fin, and I have my big pelvic fins, and this is the female. Well, she'll come and sidle up next to him, and he'll take his dorsal fin and wrap it around him, and then he takes his pelvic fins and he wraps it around her, and they both leap from the water, turn upside down, eggs, sperm, plop back into the water. And they will repeat that process. Thank you. See, that wasn't so bad. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't dirty. So they'll plop back under the water, and they will do that repetitively, all on that little piece of glass or plastic, whatever you use. And then the male, she goes off on her way. She's done. She's done. The male will hover in the water beneath that area and use his tail fin to flick water up on those eggs to ensure that they don't dry out and they develop. It's the coolest thing in nature to watch. And you can watch this in your own aquarium. Doesn't have to be a big one. It can be a little one. And watch that happen. It's just so cool. Now, I forget if it was 24 or 48 hours. The eggs develop, the fry land in the water, game over, they're food now. So in order to keep those fry for my own use and observation, you have to remove that glass or plastic, whatever you use, and I set it over a container, and I fill it obviously with water, and I put an air stone on high so it splashes the eggs constantly, and then I know when they're going to hatch. Once those eggs develop, fall into the water, I turn that air stone way down, and I put plants in there, and then you rear the fry. Because if you have that high aeration in there, those fry are just going to get like little grains of rice. They're going to get boiled and beat up, so they won't survive. But it's just the coolest thing to watch. I mean, I don't care if you want to breed them or not. Go to your neighbor's house or your friend's house, anybody here, and have a watch my fish spawn party. It's really just so cool. It's so cool.
I think we used to just submerge the eggs and they still hatch.
Did you really? See, I never did that. I was always afraid. See? That's good to know because, I was afraid to do that, but now that I know. So, see, you don't have to do anything fancy. Just throw the eggs in the water and, yeah, the next spawn, yeah. And they'll continuously do that. It's the coolest thing to watch. I'm not kidding you. This is better than Nat Geo. This is another super cool fish. Have you ever seen these available swordtail characins? Oh, I can't breathe. Cornopoma rezi, read your own information over there. They're internally fertilized, like live bears. This is one of the coolest fish on the planet. Oh my God, I love this fish. And I have batches growing out at home. The males obviously have, you can't tell from the photograph, but they have elaborate finnage, and they're so pretty. They're just plain silver fish. Sometimes they have a little bit of pink or blue on them if the light catches them just right, and you have to be there to watch it. But the females are obviously the smaller, well, actually the females are larger and they're deeper body. So she has eggs. And he has the sperm. So what's really, really, oh God, I hope I do this right. Yep, she'll get it together one of these days. What's really, really cool about these fish, oh bullshit. What's really, really cool about this fish is you'll see this filament that he will have on both sides of his body. And he's a little show-off, likes to display his fins and everything for the female, but the female really doesn't care about him. She could really care less. She's just in that tank or waterway because she wants food. What's really, really cool about this is at the end of the filament, there's a knob. And what's really cool about this fish is they're doing scientific studies now. They're caught in different waterways. And in each waterway, that knob at the end resembles the food supply that's most readily abundant in that water. So if there are ants that fall out of the sky or off the shrubbery or whatever, it'll look like ants. If it's Daphnia, if it's mosquito larvae, if it's some other little copepod thing, that knob from that area is what that will look like, which is really, really fascinating because that's evolution occurring. That's smart. So that fish, when the female comes up to him, he'll detach that and wave that in front of the female. And she thinks, oh, there's something good to eat. I'm hungry. And she'll go up there to nibble on that, and she can't bite it off. She can't get it into her mouth. And then he'll swim up next to her and inseminate her. I was trying to put it nicely. So he'll inseminate her. She doesn't even know what the heck's going on, which sounds awful, but she doesn't really care. She wants to get that food. And in different areas, it can come out on the left, it can come out on the right. Different areas where they're caught at, like I said, the knob is a different shape. Doesn't matter because they are ensuring that they are continuing their species. It's one of the most fascinating things to watch if you're into fish porn. It's really, really cool to see. And then there's a close-up of that filament. The males exhibit pheromones in the water to attract females at the base of the tail fin, at the caudal fin. And it's just one of the coolest things to watch. What's really fascinating about this fish, that female can hold on to those sperm packets for up to 6 months. And then she'll release her eggs in the sperm packet. So she doesn't need the male to be around. Once she's comfortable, once she's ready, she will just swim around and plop eggs all through the vegetation in the water. It's so cool. And they're big, clear eggs that you can actually see. It's a really, really neat fish to watch. And then I have fry growing out at home, so I personally don't know how long it takes for the males to develop. The fry that I have, this is June, are I think 6 months old. And I don't know whether I have males and females yet or not, because the finnage isn't developed and there's no hooky thing on them. But it's a really, really cool fish. If you can ever get your hands on them again, trust me, it's worth it. It's really worth it. No, he does not. No, he only, yeah. Well, he has a modified fin, yeah. It's not actually a gonopodium, but it's a part of his product, and it's modified to deliver the sperm packets. Yep. And the female doesn't seem to care whether she's getting inseminated or not. She just wants that food. And it sounds really rude and inconsiderate, but that's how they do it. But good question. So let's move to pencilfish. I did see pencilfish in the 2 shops that we went to. So they're available. Maybe not all the species, but this is another really cool little fish. Thank you. So this is a typical setup for any species that I've worked with. I do it all the same. They have to have straight RO. You can do straight RO, half tap, but you guys have really good water. You might not even need to use the RO water. Fill it up with plants on the bottom because that's primarily where they all spawn. The fry will hatch and eventually make themselves up to the surface of the water. That's why I always have floating plants, water wisteria, kabamba, whatever, floating on the top to provide. That's where the fish sleep as well. At night, they pretty much all migrate up into the shrubbery at the top. I call it shrubbery. At the top of the tank, that's where the fish all sleep. But it's just the sponge filter. Again, there's no substrate. These are in a smaller tank because I want to contain those eggs. I don't use egg traps for these guys because it doesn't seem to work very well. So I'll just layer something on the bottom of the tank to capture the eggs and hopefully avoid predation. They have small batches of eggs. This is not going to give you, thousands of fish. You'll be lucky if you get 20. But this is the way I do it. So I leave the fry in the tank sometimes, and then sometimes I just siphon, God bless you, I siphon everything out of the tank. I'll take that water down to nothing in the hopes that I get the eggs in the fry out of the water, and then I just refill it again. But it's pretty straightforward. The equus that I was telling you about, it's just a cool fish. And you can see they're found in a wide range in South America, but they all look the same. There's no differentiation in different colors in different areas. So they all swim head up, which ought to tell you they're not going to get under the bottom. They're not going to turn over and feed off the bottom. They only feed from the surface or from whatever floats past them. These are the parameters. I already told you they feed from the top, but the males will always have a red anal fin. That's the only way you can really tell because they are marked identically. And they spawn during any time of the day, whenever they feel like it. And I apologize, this is my crappy video. And you can see they both go underneath of the leaf. She turns over, he turns over, they release, and then they just continuously do it over and over and over again. And here's Aunt May. She's helping herself to some lunch. But that's what happens if you don't separate them. I've never had success picking a pair and putting them into a tank. That's never worked for me with these guys. I can only do them in a flock spawn. I can take, leave the male in there and put female after female after female. It never works for me. And I don't know if that's for everybody. Have you ever played with them?
I've played them a few times.
Yeah?
Just as you say,
Yeah.
half a dozen or so.
Yeah.
All together.
Yep. I never had success doing it. Yeah. So they're readily spawned if they're comfortable. Fry can be a bit challenging to rear. What I do is I just leave them in the tank or move them into a really crappy tank. And I know that sounds terrible. Water from the parent's tank, just let the detritus, maul, just leave them alone and feed them a little bit of powdered food, or whatever, and they'll grow. Sometimes they're painfully slow to grow, like these guys. Do these become available here? Yeah? This is a stunning little fish. You can't beat it for color. If you put this into a planted tank, it's relatively small. Very, very easy to get to spawn. You can see how heavy that female is. The males are always going to have that white splotch in the dorsal fin. Soft acidic water, feed them well. I find that they are very slow growing for me. Every time I spawn them, they just seem to take forever to grow. The other ones, not so much, but this species, for whatever reason, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, I still do the same water changes, food, blah, 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 and they're just terribly slow growing. But you can see all the little slivers of brown, and they just look like little twigs floating in the water. And they really don't move. You can put your hand in there. They might move to the side a little bit, but they're not going to dart away like most. That's been my experience anyway. They don't dart away. They just move over. So I was doing a water change because I thought they needed one, and I siphoned them into a bucket just in case, and that's what I pulled out of the debris that I took out of the bottom. So you have to be patient with them, especially with rearing them, but that's a really pretty fish. And there it is, 2 months old. This thing's only like, what was it, 3 centimeters? It's small. It's not growing fast. And it, yeah, really? It's just a little piece of debris. So it's really, really nice. So, and doozy. Do you guys ever get these available? It's tiny. This is a perfect fish for a nano. It is unfortunately silver, which nobody likes, but if you put that into a planted tank, a little bit of tannins in the water, it's a gorgeous fish. They develop that black on them. The female is always drab. The male's always going to have that lovely red on those two fins, sometimes in the dorsal, and sometimes that red will come up into the caudal area. It's a very, very pretty fish. Not the flashiest, but it's very pretty. If it's your small tank, nano tank, gorgeous. Easy to spawn. Feed the heck out of them with primarily live food. They really don't like flake. You can condition them to it, but it takes a long time. And the fry are extremely small. They're like slivers of glass if you break a piece of glass. Just there.
With the pencilfish you've got, what's the ratio you usually breed when you say a flock?
I always have more males than females. So I had 10 of them weren't follow eye. I think I had 4 females and the rest were males. Blah, blah, blah.
And what size tank would that have been?
I had them in a 32 liter, 10 gallon. Okay, 31, 38. See, I can't even remember that. Sorry, I'm sorry. But these guys here, I have them in a 10 as well, in a 38 liter tank as well. Even though they're a tiny little fish, they're very active. They tend to stay at the bottom of the tank unless nighttime, then they come to the surface to sleep. But they're at the bottom of the tank all the time, and they constantly spawn. And they only release maybe 5 eggs a day, each female. They're small. The eggs are very small as well, and they're light sensitive. But the fry tend to grow a little bit quicker. So once you take them from the tank, or the parents eat them, they're just game if they're in the tank. So I remove the fry and feed them up and then give them their own tank after about a month. It's a very nice little fish. And there's the egg. And there's the newly hatched fry. And you can see how small that egg sac is. It's barely noticeable on them. It's very narrow and long. So it doesn't take them but a few days to absorb that. And then you must start feeding them. This is my favorite fish on the whole planet. And I really don't have favorites of anything. Calotus punctatus. The headstanders. Are these available? Are they? Oh, thank God. I just love them because of their action. They're constantly head down. They're never going to turn upside down unless they're ready to die. So even the fry of these guys, it's always head down. And they'll nibble on your plants, but they're not eating the plants. They're eating the biofilm that's on the plants. I have never had these guys damage any plants, unlike some of the Lepidolus that will eat your plants. These guys don't. They just take the biofilm. And they will sift through the sand on the bottom of the tank, and you can watch the sand squirt out of their gills like little fountains. It's really cool fish. I have these fish at home, and I was trying to spawn them for the longest time. And they wouldn't do anything, so I had them for a couple of years. And here's their setup. You can see I have the pothos growing out of the top, and the roots, I just let the roots go everywhere because they need to graze off of that biofilm. And if I just have the regular potted plants or anubias in there, that's just not enough biofilm. And they don't eat off of the sides of the tank, like the sides of my tanks get the algae on them, and I don't care. I want that there. But they won't take from the side. They only take from the plant matter and the roots. So I have them in this tank. Now you can see 114 liters. So one day, and I had the lid on the tank all the time, and my room is usually always very warm. Sometimes I go in there and it's uncomfortable and I have to turn the heater off. I have the tank lid on, and obviously the water is staying warm. So the water was probably, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. 32 again? 28, sorry. So the water was always warm, constantly. So one day I decided, the heck with you guys, I've had enough, you're not doing what I want you to do, I'm in charge here, not you. I took the lid off and I moved it back. I didn't touch the light, I left the light just what it was, and I stopped doing water changes. A few months later, I go in there and I'm feeding them, and I only feed them vegetable matter. There's baby fry taking off of the roots. And I thought, you dirty dogs. So they have to have a dry season, apparently, which I've only done this once, so I got to replicate it and try to see if that works again. Hopefully it does. But this is just such a cool fish. And I was so shocked. I ran out of my room to find Eric. I'm like, ah! Having a fit because I found the babies. And he came, he's like, no, you did. Yeah, there's only 7 of them in there, so who knows how many of them there were. Because when I do my water changes on that tank, oh, which way's backward? So when I do my water changes on this tank, I don't have a floor drain, and I don't have anything close by. I have to dump it into a bucket, or I take it from the left side of the tank, and there's a vat over here that I run a hose to, and I just drain the water into that vat. But I always do the water change from here. And guess where all those fry were that I found? They were all right here. So I probably siphoned out fry and don't even realize that. So again, if you have a fish and it's not working, don't pay attention to it for a couple months. And you might get surprised by nature, and she'll say, oh, okay, you can have fry. So that's what I did. And it's just the coolest thing. So now, of course, I got to replicate that again. But it's just cool. This fish I can't stand. This is a beautiful fish. All these nematobricon, for me, they're boisterous, they're angry, they're mean, they're belligerent. I just don't like them. I don't care how pretty they are. I don't care if they come with a gold crown full of diamonds that I can sell for $1 million. I can't stand these fish, and I will not keep them. Good for you if you do. They're really, for me, they were very tough to breed because the males just are overly amorous. They just constantly pound on the females, and the females are constantly hiding. And God Almighty, if there's an egg that falls out anywhere, those males are on it like that. I don't like these fish. They're beautiful. If you want to play with them, I encourage you to play with them. If you just want to put some males in a planted tank, good for you, because all they're going to do is beat the crap out of one another. They're just ugly, nasty personalities. All those nematobricon. But they're available, and they're, reasonable to work with, reasonable to raise the fry. If you want to dip your toes, start off with something like that. I need a Valium to watch them, so I can't be bothered with them. Does anybody have any questions before I finally wind up? No, the LaCourte are rainbow tetras. Yeah, the rainbow emperor. Yeah, they do. This is a little bit bigger fish, and it's much, much more colorful. It has that beautiful stripe down it that starts out like a green, peridot green color, and then it goes into like a pale blue and into a turquoise. And the fish's eyes are just bright, screaming devil red. And the top part of the fish is just washed in pinks, purples, and reds. It's a lot different looking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the carry tetras aren't as bad as those guys are. They're bickery, but they're not as nasty as this. This fish is just awful. I think we should stop importing it immediately. It's just an awful, awful fish. It's beautiful, but they're just so cool. So I'm like, I can't handle that. I want peace and quiet. Yeah. Any other questions?
Have you ever kept any of this couple of newer pencilfish?
The Sonetta, yeah. Interesting. We do have 2 groups of them, and you still have your 2 groups, right? Yeah, I killed mine. Most of them that are coming into the States are males, so they know what they're doing. Yeah. Money. Yeah, but they're stunning.
It's small, but it's male on male.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I was sure.
Yeah, no, they're sending all males. If you can get lucky enough to know someone that's actively going down there and collecting, you can maybe request that they'll bring some back for you, and good luck if that ever happens, because you know how humans are. But they're all males. I mean, they're lovely fish. And it would be, I know there's a fellow in the UK that's spawning them, Alan. Is that him that has all the tetras all the time on there?
I'm not sure.
Ah,
Yeah, I know there's only one guy in the UK that has it.
yeah, it's not Alan Pinkerton. Why can't I think of this guy's name?
Didn't know the parameters.
Yeah, no. Albie Holgate. Albie Holgate is his name. You can look him up on Facebook. If you go there's a Kerrisons of the World Facebook group. Go in there and just put Albie, and it's going to pop up with all his stuff. He spawned some amazing fish, and he's just an amazing breeder. He would be a great speaker to have here. Albie Hargate. He has spawned them, but in the UK, I think the politics might work a little differently because he was able to get males and females, and he's having success with them. I don't know how much success. He has the new hockey stick, red tail hockey stick tetras that are coming out. He spawns them. A lot of the Monkalzia species that are just coming in, a lot of the more expensive things, I think he gets them on a special discount from a lot of the importers over there because he does amazing work with all these tetras. He's a really, really good breeder. You might want to, look him up and see. I don't know how you would get them over here like female. I don't know. Who knows when that's going to happen? Yeah, it's a shame. It really is. It's dirty. It really is. And it's very unfortunate that all we worry about is $1. Any other questions or comments? Want to throw a rock at me or anything? The Sarah, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Are they?
I had some.
Yeah. See? And that's the thing. Any new species that they find and they, begin to import it, everybody wants top dollar, so you have to wait a few years, maybe a decade, before the price drops on them. And a lot of times they'll just send the males. And that's really unfortunate because they're doing a disservice to the fish, the environment, they're doing everybody. It makes me crazy. Yes, dear?
I mainly concentrate on catfish at home, but got some cardinal tetras
Mhm.
that were very small, been sort of conditioning them.
Okay.
And I'd love to have a crack at breeding them.
Mhm.
What would you sort of recommend, tank size and just basic parameters?
Yeah. How many do you have?
40.
Oh, Jiminy Cricks. Well,
We use them in the cat.
why don't just take out a couple females and a couple males, and if the females are gravid, if they're right, good. Then put them into a smaller tank because they really don't need a huge tank, but it's got to be pitch black. Okay, put either an air stone or a small sponge filter in the back and cover the bottom with a lot of plant matter because that's where they're going to spawn. And leave the front so that you can pick it up at night, go down and look and shine with a torch, flashlight, whatever. Yeah, yeah. And you'll see the fry. If there are fry in there, then the following morning you can remove the parents. It has to stay pitch black in that tank for about a month. If you turn the light on or leave the light on for them too fast, and again, you can peel the part back to let the light in for the infusoria. But those eggs, I know for a fact they are extremely light sensitive. So within a couple of months, they'll be big enough to pitch into your tank.
pH, are
They need soft acidic water, yeah. Anything from 6 pH below. The hardness, please 0 if you can. But again, you have to have the younger fish and you have to be patient. Sometimes if you put them in the tank together, they won't do anything after 3 days if you don't see any fry in there at night when you look, or early in the morning before the lights go on. I always do it at night because that's when the fry will be most active. If there aren't anything going, take those fish out, put different ones in. Yep, that's all you got to do, but make sure it's pitch black. They're light. The temperature has to be between, 78 and 80 Fahrenheit. Yeah, so 30, 26. Why am I stuck on 30? Because I wish I was 30, that's why. But yeah, so it's got to be warm, soft acidic water, and completely dark. Completely dark, yeah. Any light that hits those eggs, they're gone. Yes, dear?
When you do your night check, is that with a red light or what?
No, I use a white light. I mean, I wouldn't use it on the cardinal tetras, neon tetras, and there was reed tetras, Elachis, which I saw. Does anybody know what they are, little reed tetras? Tiny little fish. Oh, you got to get them. They're beautiful. They're silver with white tips on the fins. Oh my God, they're gorgeous. And I know it sounds terrible because they're just silver. They are absolutely gorgeous fish because that little male will just strut his stuff and he looks so good. And they're readily spawned. The fry are really easy to raise. I think I saw them at Duke. Yeah, Will and John. Neil, I thank you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, they had them there. I don't know how much they were, but it's just a splendid little fish. So where was I going with this? The light. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm such an airhead. But anyway, yeah. Any other one? I just put the flashlight up real quick. I'm not like looking like, Diogenes for the honest man. I just look if there's silver on the sides of the glass, or if I see something moving in the substrate, I remove the light. And my room is pitch black when I look. But yeah, I would only use a red light. And we have one somewhere in our house. I don't know where that ever went to, and no, I didn't move it somewhere. So I just use a regular light. Yeah. Any other questions? For you to do?